Today we are going to learn about English comedy with one of the best performers in the business, Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen DeGeneres, or just Ellen, has a very famous daytime television show where she interviews celebrities and other interesting people. Because of her humor and unique guests, she has become extremely famous. However, what some people don't know is that Ellen started her career as an actress and comedian. By the way, today I'm going to be using FluentU to teach these new words. If you want to follow along while I teach, click on the link in the description to try out FluentU. Let's break down a trailer for a Netflix comedy special featuring Ellen.
A friend of mine was at my house and I told him I'm going to do stand-up again. And he said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, I was hoping for more of a really?" And he said, "Well, do you think you're still relatable?" It took 3 years for me to get back on television. There was this one station manager that said, "No one's going to watch a lesbian during the day." And I said, "Well, they weren't watching me at night. What time of day is good for a lesbian?"
That was hilarious. How much did you understand? Let's take a closer look at some of the vocabulary from this quick video.
A friend of mine was at my house and I told him I'm going to do stand-up again.
First, let's look at the phrase stand up. You may be familiar with the phrase stand up as it means to go from a seated position to a standing position. However, in this context, stand up is a noun and is a shorter way of saying stand up comedy, which is the comedy style that Ellen performs in this video. The characteristics of stand-up comedy are typically that the comedian stands on a stage in front of a live audience and speaks directly to the audience.
And he said, "Well, do you think you're still relatable?"
Next, let's learn the key word to this video, relatable. FluentU defines this word as an adjective that means to find similarities or to make a connection between two or more things. Let's take a look at some example sentences to give us a clearer understanding of what the word means. This class is no longer relatable to kids these days. I found this book very relatable. Essentially, relatable means that you are able to identify similar experiences within yourself and the thing that you are observing. Ellen's joke is that her friend thinks that because Ellen is now very famous and a celebrity, her life is different from the life of the average person. Therefore, her jokes won't be as funny anymore because she isn't relatable to everyday life.
Just then, Batu, my butler, stepped into the library.
The word butler means a chief servant of a household that often performs personal services like receiving guests or overseeing mealtimes. Before I dive into explaining this one, let's look at FluentU's example sentences to help us understand the word. 2 butlers live in that mansion. The butlers wear nice clothes. You can probably tell from these example sentences that to have a butler is something that is typically reserved for people who have a lot of money. So in this case, Ellen is making a joke about herself. It's not very relatable to the average person to have a butler, so she's implying that her friend was right, that she isn't very relatable anymore. If you like learning English with comedy, you'll love FluentU. FluentU takes real English videos like commercials, music videos, and inspiring talks and turns them into learning experiences. Each video and clip comes with a personalized quiz and flashcards. You can listen to native speakers pronounce words, phrases, and sentences. It's real language immersion online. Click on the link in the description for a free trial of FluentU on web, iOS, or Android. Next, let's learn downside. This is a pretty simple word. It means a negative aspect to a situation. And, you've got it, the word upside means the opposite, or the positive side of any situation. Honk is a really fun word to say. The reason it's so fun to say is that it's an onomatopoeic word, which means that the word imitates the sound of the thing that it describes. So if I say honk, do you have any guesses what it means? Right, it's the word for when you slam on your car horn. It can also mean the sound that a goose makes, since the sound is somewhat similar to a car horn. If you want to remember these words for later, click on the link in the description for a free PDF of the transcript for this trailer. It's a great resource to review this vocabulary later on.
I lost my sitcom when I came out, and it took 3 years for me to get back on television.
Next, sitcom is a word that uses short forms of 2 words to create one word. Sit is short for situation, and com is short for comedy. So when we look at FluentU's definition of the word, it says that a sitcom is based on situations that could arise in everyday life. For example, it's really popular to have sitcoms about families, workplaces, or roommates. Next, let's check out a phrasal verb. To come out means to openly declare your sexual identity. This usually regards someone who is part of the LGBTQ community. Don't get this phrase confused with go out, which just means to leave one place for another. Now, let's watch the clip one more time to review the new words that we learned.
A friend of mine was at my house, and I told him I'm going to do stand-up again. And he said, really? And I said, yeah, I was hoping for more of a really? And he said, well, do you think you're still relatable? Just then, Batu, my butler, stepped into the library. A few years ago, I started ending my show by saying, be kind to one another. But here's the downside. I can never do anything unkind, ever. I shouldn't even have a horn in my car. Like, if someone cuts me off in a dangerous way, if I honk, they're like, Ellen? I lost my sitcom when I came out, and it took 3 years for me to get back on television. There was this one station manager that said no one's going to watch a lesbian during the day. And I said, well, they weren't watching me at night. What time of day is good for a lesbian?
Now you know how to stay relatable, but there's a lot more to learn. If you really want to take your English learning to the next level, check out this video over here. You'll love learning about some new shows that will improve your English listening. See you over there.